Hello, this is my sweet mess, and welcome to my kitchen, where every week I make a mess trying new recipes in the pursuit of something sweet. This week I am excited to try a new to me recipe for festive Halloween Bats Oreo Cupcakes with cookies and cream frosting from Chef Kathy over at Lemon Blossoms, and I'll leave the original recipe link in the show notes below. These are super fun cupcakes with a lot going on. They have a rich chocolate flavor that will be great for your Halloween party and balance nicely with that cookies and cream frosting. I love the Oreo pieces that look like little bat wings to help take this cookies and cream cupcake from fun to festive. Before we jump into our recipe, let's talk about mise en place. Mise en place is a French term which translates to putting in place or everything in its place. Basically, what you're going to do is take a look at your recipe steps and ingredient list and get everything ready before you start mixing. It's like cleaning a space before you begin a DIY project. It just makes everything go a lot smoother. This recipe calls for using buttermilk, which, according to a quick search, should help make these cupcakes more tender, light, and richer in flavor. If you don't have buttermilk on hand, you can combine 1 cup of whole milk and 1 tablespoon of vinegar together. Let that sit for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then add it to your recipe. I'll include a link in the description box to the Pioneer Woman website where she breaks down why this works. And of course, the star of the show, crushed Oreos. We're using Oreos in both the batter and the frosting. I went ahead and counted out my Oreos per the recipe specification and crushed them in a plastic zip-top bag for the batter. I wanted mine to be dispersed throughout the cupcake without any big chunks, so I tried to crush my Oreos until they were smaller than a chocolate chip. If you want larger chunks of Oreos, then go ahead and adjust accordingly. For the frosting, you guessed it, I've got more Oreos. Again, I went ahead and counted them out per the recipe and crushed the Oreos in a plastic zip-top bag. Spoiler, I will regret this later. If you're making this recipe, use a food processor or a food chopper to crush the Oreos that you'll use for your frosting. I crunched those cookies as much as I could, but it gave me piping problems down the road. Learn from my mistake and really crush those cookies. Now that my ingredients look measured out and ready to go, let's take a look at the recipe steps and prep my equipment. First things first, I'll preheat my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, I'll line cupcake tins with paper liners. I only have 1 cupcake tin that has 12 wells. This recipe actually makes about 24 cupcakes, so if you have 2 cupcake tins, go ahead and prep both. I only have 1, so that's what I'm gonna prep. And I'll have my extra paper liners set to the side. I've also got a few bowls here for the buttermilk and for the sifted dry ingredients, and I'll just set those aside for later. Now that my ingredients are measured out and my equipment is prepped, let's get started with our bake. In a medium-sized bowl, I'm going to sift together all the dry ingredients. I've got my flour, baking soda, salt, and cocoa powder. I'll just pour those over my sifter, and using a spatula, I'll help force that through. I'm sifting these together so there won't be any clumps. Once all of the ingredients are sifted, I will set this bowl aside for later. In a small bowl, I'm going to whisk together the buttermilk, vanilla, brewed coffee, and sour cream. The coffee is supposed to help make that chocolate flavor pop, so I'm curious to see how this turns out. I'm also taking special care to break up that sour cream so that we're not left with chunks of it in our cupcake batter. Once all that looks well combined, I will set this aside for later. Using either an electric hand mixer or a stand mixer fitted with the paddle attachment, I will cream together the butter, granulated sugar, and brown sugar until it's nice and fluffy. This will take a few minutes, and I'm going to take my time with this part. Incorporating the butters and sugars together is crucial to create a light and fluffy cupcake texture. By whipping the sugar into the butter, you're actually making little air bubbles, and these pockets act as seeds for leavening agents like baking soda, which will help make a lighter cupcake in the end. So long story short, let your mixer run for about 3 or 4 minutes, and it actually does get fluffier. Once your butters and sugars look well incorporated, it is time to add the eggs. I'm adding the eggs one at a time, which helps make sure everything mixes evenly. Once that looks good, it is time to bring back the dry ingredients and the buttermilk bowl. Here comes the fun part. We're combining it all together. I'm going to add the wet and dry ingredients into the mixing bowl in 3 parts, starting and ending with the dry ingredients. I've got the mixer running on low and slow so I don't end up with cocoa powder all over my kitchen. I'm also going to stop the mixer quite a few times to scrape down the bottom and sides of the bowl, especially when I'm adding in the dry ingredients. It just helps prevent that cloud of flour from coming up and out of the bowl. Now that everything looks well combined, I'll take the bowl off the mixture and get to the really fun part, adding in the Oreos. I'm going to fold in the crushed Oreos with a spatula so they don't get completely pulverized, and just mix that together until the Oreos look evenly distributed. Alright, let me get the cupcake tin I prepped earlier, and I've got an ice cream scoop here. 1 ice cream scoop per cupcake well should be the perfect amount. I love using the ice cream scoop to dish up the cupcake batter. It just helps make sure everything is nice and even, and it's a lot cleaner than trying to use a spoon or measuring cup, in my opinion. Once all of the wells are filled, this will go into the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Good luck, little cupcakes! 20 to 25 minutes later, and these look wonderful! I'm gonna let them cool in the tin for about 10 minutes, and then transfer them to a wire rack and let them cool completely. While the cupcakes are cooling, I'm actually going to take a break for lunch and then come back to make the frosting. I'll see y'all in a bit. And I'm back. I love taking a lunch break while the desserts cool. This helps me from getting too excited and frosting hot cupcakes. Speaking of frosting, in a clean mixing bowl, I'm going to beat together the butter until it is super light and fluffy, about 4 minutes. This makes the frosting nice and airy, and I'll know that the butter is ready when it's a little bit lighter in color and looks fluffy. Once the butter is ready to go, I'll add in the powdered sugar in a few parts, just to make sure the sugar is well incorporated and to ensure it doesn't go flying all over my kitchen. Just like with the cupcakes, I'm going to stop the mixer and scrape down the sides of the bowl quite a few times. This just helps make sure nothing gets left at the bottom or the sides of the bowl. Once everything looks good, I'll add in vanilla and a little salt to the butter and powdered sugar. Next, I'll drizzle in just enough heavy cream or milk to get a pipeable consistency. What I'm looking for is frosting that can hold its shape. So you want something that's soft and malleable, but not liquidy. Don't panic if at this point your frosting is looking too thick or too thin. You can always add in a little bit more sugar or a little more cream. If you have to add more, start with small amounts. You can always add, but you cannot take away. So proceed cautiously. Once the frosting looks good, again, I'll take the bowl off the stand and add in the crushed Oreos. I'll use a spatula and just turn the frosting until everything looks well combined. Now for the grand finale, piping the frosting onto the cooled cupcakes. This part is always hit or miss for me, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. And honestly, even if it looks a little messy, it's still going to taste amazing. Which is great to remember because this is where everything got very frustrating for me. I realized at this point that the frosting tips could not handle the Oreo chunks. I know I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. I wish I had used a food processor to crush up the frosting Oreos, because as much as I would have loved to have piped the frosting on these cupcakes, that was just not in the cards for me. Even though I switched piping tips quite a few times, nothing was working out. So at the end of the day, I squeezed all the frosting back into the bowl, got a knife, and frosted the cupcakes that way. They won't look as cute, but they'll still taste good, and that's what matters. And I'll know for next time, if I ever have any cookie chunks in the frosting, they need to be crushed up quite a bit before I can use a piping bag. Once the cupcakes are frosted as good as they can be, I'm gonna add some fun decorations on top. You do not have to do this. I have some extra Oreos and candy eyeballs, so I am. I'm going to cut or break my Oreos in half, and these will be my bat wings. And then I'll add candy eyeballs. And these guys are so cute. I am so proud of my very first attempt at these Oreo cupcakes with cookies and cream frosting. Enough chit chat, time for a taste. These are rich, chocolatey, and packed with cookies and cream flavor. The rich chocolate cupcake really pairs nicely with that sweeter, chocolatey frosting. If you have Oreo or chocolate lovers in your house, you've got to make these for Halloween. Trust me, if I can make these, you definitely can too. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more first-time baking experiments. And let me know in the comments below, what's your favorite cupcake flavor? Thank you so much for being with me here today. And remember, trying new things is messy, but the end result can be pretty sweet. Have a great rest of your day. Bye now.